the Cornermen Radio with Barzini and Boxingeye. We want to welcome our guest, Jake. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Barzini.
Man, appreciate it, man. Let's get into it, Jake, man. This Wednesday I saw on the morning punch show that y'all kind of announced that Lara is fighting Terence.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on this fight? And why is this fight happening?
It's happening because it's the fight that PBC, they want that fight. It's the fans want to see a fight between Lara and Demetrius Andrade, probably because they're the only two guys that would fight each other. But this fight with Lara and Terrell Gachet is actually going to be part of a series that PBC is planning. There's 4 major fights at 154 pounds that are all in the mix, like within the same 2-3-week time frame. There's this fight. J-Rock, Julian Williams, is going to be fighting Tony Harrison. Eric Salubin is going to be fighting for his first world title versus Jermell Charlo. And then Jarrett Hurd will be defending his title against Austin Trout. So all these fights will be happening sometime between September 30th and October 14th.
Wow. That's amazing, man. I'm just so surprised, man, that we haven't seen one unification in the 154 division since Canelo and Floyd Mayweather? Like, that's a long time, man.
It's a division on the back burner.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we talked about it several times on the Morning Punching show. This is the division that actually would have benefited from something like the World Boxing Super Series. And it was something that, everyone was hoping would become part of that. But it seems like PBC is going to have their own plans for it. And as long as Showtime's on board, all 4 of these fights are going to happen around the same time, theoretically with the winners fighting the winners. And, we'll get at least 3 unification bouts out of it when all's said and done. So, I mean, it's better than what it's been. It's, for as much talent as in that division, there's not a lot of stars right now. I don't know if there's anyone really that could be called a star at 154 pounds. So, as long as these guys all fight each other, a star would emerge from it. My own bias, I mean, I would say Eric Salubin would be the last man standing, either him or Hurd. But, we're going to get something, as long as these guys, stay true to the word, they fight each other, PBC makes these fights happen, doesn't drag it out. Something big will happen at 154. It's a division that needs something big to happen.
Right. I had Ernesto Rodriguez and Jarrett Hurd on our show yesterday, and they told me, after this fight with Trout, they have to fight their mandatory before December 30th, Cedric Vitu from France. So it's we still going to have to wait maybe till next year to see these guys fight each other and shit. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, especially if they're fighting September or in October, then, there's no way they're taking a unification fight that soon. So, and go back to your point earlier with Gachet, it's easy to throw Gachet into a title fight than for Al to come up with another fight for him, while waiting for something bigger. I know for a while Austin Trout actually wanted to fight Gachet. So instead of them two fighting each other, they're both getting title shots.
Right.
But I will say this: Swift, as motivated as he is, he's the type of guy that needs to be fighting 3 or 4 times a year anyway. So if he, let's say theoretically, he fights and beats Austin Trout, which is no gimme, and then he gets his mandatory out the way. I mean, I think that's a beautiful situation. Mandatories are fights that you should want to get out of the way as soon as possible. So if he can win and then turn around 3 months later, there's nothing lost at 154.
Right. What is with Demetrius Andrade? Is his managers, his promotion? When are we going to likely see him back in the ring?
The thing with Andrade, I mean, that's the thing. The thing with Andrade, I mean, he's supposed to be Lara's mandatory. So I don't know why the WBA didn't order that fight or why it's being I mean, I guess I know why it's being sidestepped. But I know there's still a little bit of bad blood with Andrade's people and the PBC way back when he bailed on a fight with Jermell Charlo. He has 2 promoters. He has Star Boxing and Banner Promotions. He tried to bail and do the whole thing with Rock Nation. Then he went back. Now he's got, beef with Rock Nation, which I guess is no big deal since Rock Nation is no longer relevant. But he's just, you can't. The thing in boxing, I mean, it's all about politics. And, when you start pissing off the wrong people, a guy like Demetrius Andrade, who nobody already wants to fight, he's going to be the odd man out in these situations. So his people have to, find a way to do better business without, they got to realize they're not the ones calling the shots. Andrade they may well be the best 154-pound fighter in the world, but he don't have the connections to get those fights right now. So without the WBA ordering a fight, his people, they need to play nice and give assurances that they're going to show up. They're not going to keep negotiating, bleed all the money dry. So and Andrade needs to get his people on board with that. So come on.
Right. So, have you heard any news from Lamont Peterson? He's been off of social media. Is he likely to come back this year, or he's just gonna wait for Thurman?
He is Thurman's mandatory. It's any other fight would be a risk, I guess, but it's just a matter of how much Lamont Peterson's heart is still into the sport. He looked great. Physically, he looked great. In his win over David Avanesian earlier this year. It's just that, a lot. There's been a lot of questions within his circle as to how long he wants to continue being a pro. He's a fitness freak. He's, the consummate gym rat. He's the guy nobody could outlast in the gym. But I don't think fighting, 2-3 times a year is a big priority, for him these days. So, to answer your question, he could very well wait out Thurman, but that could be a long wait because I don't think Thurman's going to return just to fight Lamont Peterson. So.
Right. That's like next year, March. Like
exactly right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Especially
these guys.
Yeah, especially with Thurman only fighting once a year these days. If you don't get that shot when when he's ready to come back, then you're waiting a year for that. So.
Right. And it's gonna be like I want to see. He's not even training. Thurman not even training. So it's gonna be hard for him to even make weight. It's a long time for him to get back in shape. But
exactly. Plus, he was injured. He was letting injuries heal. He just got married, so he's the guy. He's always been a different breed, and he's just enjoying life right now. So, he's not going to be the guy. He's not going to rush back into the ring, especially for a mandatory fight with Lamont Peterson. So,
in your opinion, who you think likely is to fight Earl Spence next?
If things don't happen with Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao in a rematch, I can see that fight easily happening. So, it's a fight that they were supposed to fight each other before, Horn wound up, getting the fight with Manny Pacquiao because it was a fight that the IBF was going to order. At the time, Errol didn't even know really who Jeff Horn was other than the fact that they were both in the 2012 Olympics. He didn't know a lot about him. I'm sure everybody knows who he is now. So, it's a very attractive fight for Errol, and it's a fight that he now wants. Jeff Horn has been on social media talking about it, and, Errol's like, well, come on, bring your title. I'll be more than happy to take it from you. So there was, he was talking about fighting in his hometown, but, we're already less than 2 months away if that, in fact, is going to happen, and, we're starting to run out of available dates, so I don't going to be next for him. So hopefully Errol's going to want a big fight next.
All right. So Jeff Horn, he signed with Doc Events, right?
Duco Events, right, out of Australia, and he also
Duco Events.
Right, and Top Rank is his co-promoter. So.
Oh, so he has promotional options with Top Rank. Damn.
He does, yeah. Jeff Top Rank has a very good relationship with Duco Events with Jeff Horn and with the heavyweight titles Joseph Parker as well. So.
Right. So you think Duco Events and Top Rank will be able to work with Heyman and things?
If the fight makes, obviously their priority is the Pacquiao rematch, but you have to determine, if Pacquiao is ready to come back in November, then it should be a relatively easy rematch to make. But if Pacquiao decides he's going to be a politician first and a boxer second, Jeff's going to need someone to fight. How long is he going to sit out? So any fight that makes sense, I think they'll find a way to make it happen. So. The PBC, they're not really the guys that are standing in the way of these fights happening. So if, Errol says, I'm willing to fight anyone across the street, whether or not Al needs to be involved, I think, those fights could happen. He's not going to get Manny Pacquiao next. He probably wouldn't even get a Terence Crawford fight next. But, Jeff Horn, I could see that fight happening.
Well, I'm hearing Daniel Jacobs is coming back October 14th.
Yes.
Is it Andy Lee?
That's been a name that's mentioned. The problem with the PBC is like trying to predict breaking news. Everything is fluid with them. Today it could be Danny Jacobs has absolutely come back. October 14th, he's fighting at Barclays. He's going to find Andy Lee. Then next week we could find out Peter Quillen decides he wants to come back and it's going to be a rematch. So for now, the rumor is that that Danny's going to top the October 14th card at Barclays.
Yeah, because I'm just assuming that it's Andy Lee because, he's trying with Lou DiBella and thing, and it's really nobody left. I doubt Jermell is going to fight him that quick.
And I doubt Danny Jacobs is coming back to fight. Yeah, Danny Jacobs not coming back to fight Jermell Charlo in October without anything at stake.
Right. Right. So I just see there's nobody else. Right? The Muse, they're all turning down. So
right.
I just don't know what's likely. But I heard Lucas Batista is coming back in November. Do you know who he's likely to fight next, in your opinion?
No, I don't. I mean, Batista, he looked fantastic in his comeback in May. I thought that was like the lone bright spot of that May pay-per-view. It gave me hope that, he could do something at welterweight. I think he might take one or two more fights. Oh, sorry?
What about the winner of tonight with Jesus Soto Carras versus Mauricio Herrera? If one of them looks good, I wouldn't mind seeing. I think Carras can win, and then they can match him up with Matisse.
Yeah, I will say I didn't think much of the matchup, until I saw the weigh-in yesterday, just how much bigger Soto Carras is than Mauricio Herrera. So, I mean, they're both, fairly, very badly fated fighters. If Matisse's not ready to fight for a title, I mean, as long as he's willing to stay busy, I guess I would, I'd be okay with that fight. But, I mean, that's not like a fight that's going to land on HBO or anything.
No. I know. I mean, Carras has been done for a while. Mauricio's looked like shit. I thought Frankie Gomez finished him, but now he's back on ESPN.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy, man. That would be terrible if that fight ever happens, if he fights the winner of that.
Yeah, it's
but
one of
I'm
those
just saying it'd be a war.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fight that Golden Boy could easily make. It's, it's a geek-friendly fight, I guess, but it's a fight that does absolutely nothing for Batisse's career. I mean, I would say it keeps him busy, but, I mean, fighting in May and then fighting in November, that's not exactly an active streak. So, if that fight were happening, next month, I'd be okay with it. But
you know what? So we had James Easter on, Robert's uncle, and I was telling him, man, I'm like, yo, I don't see any unifications at lightweight. Unless Luke Campbell were to beat Linares and fight Flanagan. But if Verdejo gets the Flanagan shot eventually, he's going to win, more than likely. I mean, I like Terry Flanagan. He's a tough fighter, but I do believe in Verdejo's skills, and he's not going to unify anytime soon. But I don't see any unifications at lightweight. So I see Robert Easter eventually defending and moving up to fight Bartholomew possibly next year. I mean,
that's a fight that was rumored once upon a time, actually. The wild card is whether or not Mikey Garcia decides to stay at 135. I mean, obviously beating Adrian Broner at 140, everyone wants to see him in those fights, maybe even move up to 147. I thought he actually looked a little bit soft for making 140. He looked spectacular, but I'm not convinced that 140 is yet his most, his ideal weight. So why not stay down, fight Robert Easter? It's a fight that, I guarantee Showtime would throw all sorts of money at that, making that fight. Easter's got a lovely following in Toledo.
Yeah.
And Mikey, he generates good ratings. That's a great TV fight. That is the one realistic unification bout that can be made right now. I mean, because the Linares wins in September. After the Shafikov fight, I would understand if Mikey, was hesitant about going to Toledo. That's a fight, I mean, those scores were just crazy. I mean, granted, I had Robert Easter winning that fight, but, I mean, Shafikov just didn't have a chance. It's a shame. Ohio they have to get a better commission if they're going to keep getting in these big fights because, Robert Easter, he could really do something for that town. I was at his fight when he fought Luis Cruz. I mean, that crowd was just electric. I mean, between that and, Rashid Warren, lost that night. But, I mean, the crowd was just all the way into that event.
It was electric in Reading, Pennsylvania, when Jacobs was the main event.
Right.
I was like, damn.
When he fought Richard Cobb. Yeah, he has a following. So, you're probably going to have to put it somewhere where, it's going to be, Robert Easter's going to be able to bring his crowd because, I mean, it's not like they're going to get on a bus and go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But sadly, when you don't have a good location, Las Vegas seems to be the fallback as far as, where big fights happen. So, but, I mean, if that fight can happen, I mean, I'm sure they'll find a fitting location for it.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that fight happens next. But and you have I noticed that Jesse Vargas is walking with the TMT now again. Is he having some differences with Bob Arum? Is he coming back to fight? What's going on with Jesse Vargas?
I know he's always he's never had like bad blood with Floyd. I mean, he was with TMT before he signed with Cameron Duncan in Top Rank, but it's not like he left on bad terms. So he lives in Vegas. He needs somewhere to train. So I haven't really heard his name mentioned as far as the Top Rank fights on ESPN. So Jesse could very well just be looking for some work right now. So
wow,
not sure how much I want to read.
I saw him at the press conference with Conor and Floyd. And he was talking about all these things, So I'm very surprised.
He's like I said, it's a smart move. You don't sever ties with the people you do business with, and unfortunately that happens too many times in boxing. So if Jesse does decide to fight, I'm sure he wants to keep all his options open.
Okay. All right. I wanted to ask you about Miguel Bertrand. Do you think he can have a unification with Gervonta Davis in the fall, or does he have a unification with Vasily Lomachenko or Giselle Corrales?
Gervonta's another one. I like Gervonta a lot, but this is where we're starting to see, his options seem to be limited as who he's going to fight. I don't like the fact that Gervonta, was talking about, the Vasily Lomachenko's inability to draw a big crowd. I mean, Lomachenko sold out. It wasn't a big venue, but he still sold out the venue in Maryland. And to my knowledge, Gervonta Davis hasn't really sold a ticket yet to any of his fights. He's been on undercards. So maybe like in fighting in D.C., he brought some people to Adrian Broner's fight, but it's not like he's a draw yet. He's not a guy that can be calling the shots. I mean, I love the fact that he's going to be on the Mayweather-McGregor undercard. It's, one of the few things I actually liked about that August 26th show. But we don't even know who he's fighting yet. And he's not a guy that needs to be dismissing, potential future opponents, especially at 130 where there aren't a lot of options. I mean, we know he's not going to fight Hezro Corrales. Golden Boy has him. So, his options are going to be limited as far as big fights. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, the only person he likely to unify is with Miguel. And I was like, is his promotional can work with Al Heyman? You'll be having more knowledge on that.
I mean, yeah, they have in the past. So it's, they're another one. They're relatively neutral. So it's, they don't have their hook sunk into one particular promoter. So it's something that could happen. I'm not sure how big of a priority, though, is in Gervonta's career. I think right now it's just about, getting his name out there, staying busy. I mean, like I said, he's fighting in 3 weeks. We don't even know the opponent yet. I know Rocky Martinez was mentioned, but I think Nevada might be rejecting that fight. So they could be looking for a backup plan. He keeps talking about, him and Tevin Farmer. They had their little beef. Obviously Tevin Farmer's recovering from a gunshot wound, so he's not fighting anytime soon.
Everybody goes crazy over unifications because it's been the year of unifications, but Gervonta is the youngest champion. He's not going to unify anytime soon. So I'm trying to tell you, bro, they ain't gonna put him up against another champion.
No, I was saying, I was basically asking if Miguel was going to unify with anyone, whether it's Vasily, Corrales, because if Corrales,
I think he unified with Lomachenko. That's me.
Well, I mean, that's how long Lomachenko decides to stay at 130 as well. I mean, he could very well decide this is going to be his last fight there. But, Lomachenko keeps talking about he wants to fight for all the belts, but, I mean, he's not fighting for anyone's belt this week, and he's just fighting, Miguel Mariaga. And he keeps talking about as bad as the, talks went with Toledo, they made a good offer to him. Toledo, made his demand, got what he demanded, then decided this wasn't the right time. For all that talk, I mean, they're still willing to fight him next. So, that's still the only loss on his record. So I see that being more of a priority for Lomachenko within the next 12 months than, worrying about, Miguel Beltran or, someone who the only thing they bring to the table is a title. I mean, that's not a lot of leverage. And I mean, I guess I'm just a minority. I don't like unification bouts just for the sake of unification bouts. To me, it has to mean something.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. I'm noticing, I was hearing Badu Jack was fighting Nathan Cleverly. Then I heard on some in Canada that he was supposedly fighting Aleda Alvarez. Is he still coming back on that kind of Floyd undercard?
Badujak is absolutely on the card, but I mean, right now it's not looking like it's going to be a very big fight. You know, when this show was first announced, I mean, it's a big circus, but I pointed out the things that I liked was, you know, the undercard they were looking to put together. And that's, you know, that's already not happening. I mean, right now, I mean, we got some nice things with Sean Porter fighting on Fox. You know, Steve Cunningham possibly fight. Jermell Herring's going to be on the undercard. But, you know, if Badujak isn't in a meaningful fight and if he's just on the undercard for the sake of fighting, you know, it's kind of a disappointment, especially considering what he's given up. You know, I mean, he had the chance to be the best super middleweight in the world. He decided, you know, he couldn't make that weight anymore. So now he's moved up to 175. The best next move would have been to fight Nathan Cleverly, get a title, especially on what's going to be the most watched card of 2017. So it's
Paulie Malignaggi just got beat up.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I believe that at all. Since you bring that up, though, I mean, what I find interesting that nobody's bringing up. I mean, for the moment, Paulie said he was going to be sparring with Conor. It's like it seemed like a conflict of interest that, you know, someone who's going to be commentating as part of the Showtime team is going to go into Conor's camp. Now he's leaving. I mean, it's not exactly, you know, it's not expressed that it's on bad terms, but he's already annoyed by the way things are going in that camp. You can't say he's going in with an unbiased opinion. So I'm curious. You know, the Showtime decided to keep him on the commentating team for that show. I'm sure they will. I mean, he's the best announcer in the game, in my opinion. But I don't like the conflict of interest that comes in. Nobody seems to be talking about that. Yeah, I guess there's so many conflicts of interest in boxing that nobody cares.
Right.
They pissed them off.
I mean, I don't blame Paulie in that. I mean, it's just, you know, you wonder. I mean, if this whole thing was a revenge trip, I mean, it seems silly. It's like, you know, you're going to pay someone just to get revenge. I mean, you know, Conor brought him in as a paid spot, unless Paulie did it for free, which I sincerely doubt. You know, Conor's whole thing was I didn't like this shit. Yeah.
These are the mind games Conor plays with Paul, because Paulie was talking about him before the fight even started, and now this guy, he snuck those pictures. The guy Conor's a funny guy, man. He's a funny dude.
He is. I mean, to be honest, I'm sure Paul, you know, pardon my language, I'm sure Paulie gives zero fucks about what Conor McGregor thinks about him. You know, always thinking about his Conor's willing to, you know, he's willing to pay me to go spar. You know, that's, you know, Paulie got a nice insider view. I mean, you know, if he does, you know, when he is on the air for this fight, he has a better view than anyone else of what Conor is going to bring to the ring.
I'm gonna watch that All Access tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And Jake, man, do you have any news on Victor Postal, Ruslan Pakhanikov, or Amir Imam? Because I haven't seen or heard about these fighters in so long.
I'm going to go in reverse. Amir Imam, he should be coming back. He wanted the Terence Crawford fight. The problem is, I mean, HBO didn't want it because he hasn't won a meaningful fight in so long. You know, his last meaningful fight, he got knocked out by Adrian Granados. So he's a major talent. He has the ability to be the best 140-pound fighters in the world, but he has to take a meaningful fight in order to get a title. He can't just jump in and say, I want to fight for a title next. You know, I'm going to fight on HBO. So he has to start accepting fights. That's the bottom line. Provodnikov is unofficially retired. I mean, this is the year of retirement. So, you know, hopefully with everyone else making the announcement, he'll, you know, make it official as well. But I sincerely doubt we'll ever see Ruslan Provodnikov ever come back again.
Okay.
They should give Granados Regis Prograis should fight with Granados before because I know he's calling a lot of people out. He looks great. He just beat what's his name? On Showbox. Good fight.
Diaz.
Diaz.
I'll say this: Regis Prograis. I mean, you tell him he's fighting and he's there. He's not going to care who's in the other corner. Yeah. So, I mean, if you tell him Granado, like I said, all you have to tell Regis is you're fighting next. That's all he cares about. He'll show up. I guarantee he'll be like, don't even tell me the opponent. I'll just be there on fight night. He's the guy. He wants Terence Crawford. I don't think Terence is going to stick around at 140 long enough for that fight to happen, but I love Regis Prograis. I mean, he's a guy that could be the future of the 140-pound division. You know, if Amir Imam can get his stuff together, I mean, that's a great fight for 2018.
Well, I heard Miguel and Lou DiBella saying that Regis Prograis, since he's ranked number 2 in the WBC and Amir Imam is ranked number 1, they're possibly trying to make a title eliminator for the mandatory for Crawford and Ndango. That's what I'm hearing.
If I'm either one of them, though, I would kind of wait out to see what Terence Crawford's next move is, because why fight a title eliminator knowing that Terence Crawford could very well move up to 147 after this fight. Because, I mean, let's be honest, what awaits Terence Crawford at 140 after this fight? You know, the bigger paydays are going to be at 147. So if he vacates, then you have the top two guys that are fighting for a vacant title. I mean, you know, why take that extra fight, you know, a dangerous fight like that against each other, knowing that that same fight could be for a title?
Right. But my thing with the Crawford situation, Jake, is that if he move up to 147, I don't see nobody fighting him because I just seen on the article Boxing Scene that Manny Pacquiao exercising the rematch with Jeff Horn. He just announced it.
Right.
So if that's coming into fruition, I don't see Jesse Vargas. He hasn't fought since November of last year. I don't see in November coming back his first fight being Crawford. Right? So who Lucas Matisse, I sure ain't going to fight no Crawford. Bradley just retired. No, because Matisse already turned him down so many times for a title. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even see that happening. So who is he likely to fight at 147? It's really nobody, unless he fights for 140 and defend that belt against Lipinets or Merrimam or whoever.
His people would be retarded to put him against Lipinets. That makes no sense. That fight is stupid. Lipinets is not even a name. I mean, I'd fucking smack him with the belt and give it back to him. He really wants that belt.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the reality of waiting on Lipinets, is that he'll wind up fighting for the vacant IBF title. You know, I guess whoever wins the fight, because even if Ndogo fucks around and gets the upset, I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna defend those 4 titles. I mean, he's gonna look for the biggest paydays. I mean, he's been on the road. This will be his 3rd straight road fight. So, I mean, you know, why sit back and then take a dangerous mandatory like Lipinets? I mean, it's on paper that the winner absolutely has to fight him next. You know, Terence, if there's a way to make it happen, if there's going to be enough money to be thrown at the fight, you know, Terence Crawford is another guy. He's just, you know, give me the fight date. I don't care about the opponent, just give me the fight date. So he decides he's going to stay at 140. He's going to need someone to fight. So, and I'm sure he has all the confidence in the world that he's going to beat Lipinets.
Right.
No matter what.
Right.
No matter what.
If
so what I was
going to
say, no matter
what, and Vasily, they sure can sell the Lipinets and Crawford.
Yeah.
Crawford is in a good position. I think my personal opinion is Crawford is in a good position because he can fight whoever, and they can put it in Omaha. While Errol Spence is going to be fighting Sean Porter. Errol Spence is going to be fighting Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is going to be, or Danny Garcia is going to be fighting Sean. They're all going to fight each other, and eventually, when we get, you know, I feel like styles make fights. I feel like, you know, certain styles might beat, but whoever comes out, that guy, we all think Spence, then by that time, they can make a pay-per-view with Crawford and whoever it is, you know. So Crawford's just got to sit back, chill.
Yeah, I've been saying that. I mean, you know, a year or two from now, we're going to see, you know, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, you know, like you said, probably on a pay-per-view, and that's going to be a fight to determine pound to supremacy. I mean, you know, I've been arguing that Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world right now. You know, I mean, maybe there's some that are, you know, technically better, but I mean, he's a guy, he dominates everyone just all the same, no matter who it is. He just breaks them down and dominates them. There's really no one else, you know, pound for pound that can claim that right now.
Right. So, you never told me about Victor Postal. What's up with him?
He's not on anyone's high priority list. He's just, you know, I'm not sure how aggressively Bob has been in, you know, trying to get him fights with all these ESPN dates. Maybe he winds up on an undercard, but he's not on a high priority list right now. I mean, he's literally done nothing since the Crawford fight. So, you know, we're talking about where Lipinets isn't worth anything, but Lipinets is at least a mandatory challenger. You know, Victor Postol is just a guy in the 140-pound division right now. Yes, he even decides to stay at that weight.
You can fight Troyanowski in Russia. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, Troyanowski, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yo, who's Danny likely to fight? I keep hearing Brandon Rios, Luis Collazo, now the WBC trying to order the Porter fight. What's up with Danny, man? Who you think is likely to fight next?
What is up with Danny, man?
You know, Danny, I mean, he's going to wind up on Showtime sometime in the fall. I don't see him sitting out the rest of 2017. And despite what people think, he actually is a proud guy. He's just not a guy that really talks a lot or, you know, expresses his opinion, you know, at all, really. He's just not a talker. He's a guy, he just likes to fight. So, He knows he's going to need a big fight, especially coming off a loss. He's not going to get another Samuel Vargas. He's not going to get a Rod Sarko. Those days are long over. Showtime is not going to throw money at that. So, he's kind of, I guess he's kind of taking a wait-and-see approach right now. He's obviously not fighting Keith Thurman next, but if he wants to fight again in 2017, I mean, who knows? Maybe whoever Sean Porter fights in August, he gets to turn around, come back, fight in November and December. I mean, fighting Danny Garcia, for the right to fight Keith Thurman again.
Yeah. I can't see Danny turning down the Sean Porter fight. I feel like they'll offer him the money he wants, and that he thinks his style is going to be meshed good against Porter. He's always said that. And I don't see what that's basically Al Heyman's game plan. I mean, that's the big fight at 147. Like, the nearest big fight is Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. That's before the big fight.
Yeah, exactly. And PBC has already been teasing that fight, too. So, the moment they started, talking about, the fight was going to be ordered by the WBC, PBC started tweeting about it. And when they start talking about a fight, those fights tend to happen. So that's why I believe not only will it happen, I think it's going to happen by the end of 2017.
So, for Kell Brook, I hear he coming back November or December, and Khan is coming back November or December. What's the update for them? Who's their likely opponents? Who they going to face?
Amir Khan's opponent is apparently going to be his soon-to-be ex-wife. I mean, we saw his Twitter feed blow up for him. So I don't know what happened with him. I mean, if you don't stop, his next opponent could be Anthony Joshua, out on the street. But but I mean, he needs a fight. He hasn't fought since Canelo. He's going to need, money at some point. I'm not sure how big of a fight Kell Brook is right now. I don't think they would go straight away and fight each other next.
No, I know they're not fighting each other. Right. I just wanted to know who they going to fight next.
I would see, Brook will be moving up to 154. Khan would have to pick a weight, and I think it would be very safe fights. That's if Amir Khan comes back this year. Because he's been extremely selective. I think it would be very safe fights, and that's a fight that we'll wind up seeing in 2018. Especially with, boxing's so hot in the UK right now. That's a fight that would easily sell. And I'm sure Eddie's well aware. That's a fight that doesn't have a very long shelf life.
All right. Well, I was thinking Khan was going to fight Lamont Peterson in the rematch this year if he did come back.
He has to, restore his relationship with PBC. It hasn't been the greatest. I mean, there's a reason why when, he was mentioned as an opponent for Canelo, PBC was like, all right, go ahead. You want to negotiate with them, we're not going to stand in the way. So, and he hasn't really done anything with PBC. I mean, he had the fight with Chris Algieri, and that's really been it. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, if it's a fight that Lamont Peterson likes, then sure, PBC is going to see it as that's an opportunity to put some money in Peterson's pocket. But I've never been convinced that Amir Khan has been a PBC priority. So, he just might have to start looking at domestic fights.
Okay. Hey, you have any news on the Canelo and Triple G undercard?
No, sadly I don't. Every fight that, we kept thought was going to happen on it, but, we thought Matisse was going to be on it, and, he's not ready to come back. David Lemieux, it's I don't know. Right now, Diaz. Yeah, that's, it's going to be, Golden Boy heavy because, K2's stable isn't very deep, and all those guys are already committed to fights. I mean, obviously, Chocolatito's fighting the week before. Usyk is actually fighting on that same day over in Berlin. He's fighting Marco Huck. So it's going to be a Golden Boy heavy undercard. I'm not expecting much from it.
I wouldn't mind Frankie Gomez versus Orozco, but I don't know if Frankie can make that weight. Well, I'm just throwing shit out there.
He got a fight already.
Oh, okay. I was just throwing shit out there.
Yeah, I mean, we might get some good matchups, but it's not going to be anything to really. I mean, the sell is obviously the fight itself. So I don't think there's going to be any fights on that undercard that's going to do anything to enhance, the already big event. And sadly, it's the same for both big pay-per-views right now. August 26th and September 16th. It's just business as always. It's big main events, but the undercards are just kind of there as wallpaper.
Right. Jake, man, I seen Miguel is gonna fight his last fight in December.
So he does.
Is he really gonna fight David Lemieux? Like, is that really true? If he's fighting for the 154 title?
I don't know what to think of Miguel. I mean, Miguel, after this fight, he could decide he's going to sit out another year. I mean, this is his first fight in almost 2 years. I mean, I know he was supposed to fight Kirkland, but the fact that he's already been talking, I mean, his heart really hasn't been in boxing really ever since he beat, Sergio Martinez to win the middleweight title. Getting back in the ring has never been like high on his list of things to do. He just, he's made history for Puerto Rico. He's another guy. His life is set. He could very well not fight again after August 26th. He would have to absolutely move up to 160. I mean, because, what is Lemieux going to do to move down anything below 160? So without
he's been troubling to make weight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's the guy that's probably going to wind up moving to 168 before he ever moves, down or even stays at 160. So without anything at stake, I don't see why Cotto would take a fight like that. Unless it's a career retirement fund. I mean, but how much money is in a fight like that too? So to make Cotto, want to take a risk like that.
Yeah, because I seen Lemieux turn down the Saunders fight.
Yes,
to fight because he thinking he fighting Cotto. I'm like, is this dude delusional?
I mean, Lemieux could be a guy that winds up fighting. Let's say Canelo beats Triple G. He's not fighting for the WBC title, so Triple G's going to be stuck with that. Not stuck with it, but he's going to be stuck with that mandatory. So Canelo can fight really whoever he wants. And a Lemieux fight is a fight that's always been teased. And even if Canelo loses, I mean, look who he's losing to. So that's still a fight that could be made, and it's going to be a big sell. Not like a blockbuster, 2 million pay-per-view sell, but a Canelo Lemieux fight is a fight that HBO would gladly get behind. So it doesn't matter what's going to be at stake.
Okay. So it's crazy, man. But I know I just see the WBA just ordered the Ortiz and Joshua fight. Is it going to be now Wilder is like out of the question now?
It's not. Luis Ortiz is keeping his options open. He's a guy that's going to decide whatever's best for his career. He wants to be the first Cuban to win a heavyweight title. With Joshua, he's also going to have to. He has a mandatory with the IBF to fight Kugatpulev. So that could be the fight that takes place first.
Yeah.
Wilder, he might wind up getting stuck fighting. I was going to say Wilder might get stuck fighting Berman to Burn. Everyone keeps putting that fight aside as if it's going to be resolved, and Wilder is. I know like a few weeks ago they reported that the Wilder and Ortiz was almost a done deal. It's going to happen November 4th at Barclays. That's never been the case. It's a fight that's been discussed, but I mean it's far from a done deal just for the simple fact that Berman Stavern is refusing to get out the way.
Yeah, I was praying it was going to get done because me and Bars are always. I truly believe stylistically Wilder's 1-2 is a nightmare. I think Ortiz matches up better with Joshua because Joshua's a little slower, and Ortiz can use this great counterpunching. I feel like Wilder stomps Ortiz. I like Luis Ortiz a lot. I've been watching him. I got a friend down in Florida who was his eye doctor who told me his eye is fucked up. He's older than he is. I ate dinner with the guy who's friends with my grandfather, and he's like, I'm telling you right now, Ortiz is not as big as they think he is either. He's like 6'2". I'm like, oh, really? All this stuff is interesting. But, I mean, I love Ortiz. He looked great after the Brian Jennings, and then ever since then, please tell me what fight he's looked good. No, he's old.
I agree with you. The thing with Ortiz, the Anthony Joshua fight is the fight that he's always wanted. I mean, he told me personally yesterday, as a matter of fact, that he's been Joshua's mandatory, not Joshua, but the WBA mandatory for 18 months. And when Joshua won that WBA super belt against Klitschko, that was the fight he's wanted all along. He's been waiting out Klitschko's decision for the past 4 or 5 months already. He's wondered, if Klitschko doesn't come back, that was always his number one. That's why I never really believed that, he's going to move immediately to a Deontay Wilder fight. He said now if a Wilder fight comes, with the WBC title and maybe the vacant WBA title, that's a fight that's definitely more attractive to him than just fighting Anthony Joshua. But the Joshua fight is a much bigger payday. So in addition to becoming the first, Cuban heavyweight, he doesn't just want a cheap title. He wants to make a name for himself. As you just said, he's up there in age, whatever his age is.
He probably gets a little more than Spielko to fight Wilder, and then if he goes and fights Joshua, I mean, he's getting he's probably getting an extra $400, $500K easy.
Right.
So.
But the fact that the WBA ordered the fight with Joshua and Ortiz, that puts more assurance in Luis Ortiz's head. Because Wilder.
I know. I'm sad. He's not fighting Wilder anymore since they ordered that. I mean, that's just my belief. Yeah, if Klitschko came back, he would probably he'd be impatient and take the Wilder fight. But now, it's definitely he's waiting.
Right. Well, that's my point. I mean, his marching orders were to be ready to fight in October, late October, maybe November. But he wants to fight for a title next. He doesn't want to hear that the Wilder Stavern situation is still another month from being resolved. He wants to get back in the ring already. He wants to put his name on a contract, and he wants to fight for October. So especially now that Anthony Joshua is free, that's going to be the fight he's going to pursue hard. So, and if the WBA decides to vacate that title, I don't know if he'd get to fight for it, if he's willing to settle for that. But his priority is to get back in the ring. He wants to get back in the ring, fight for a title. Number 2 would be to fight Anthony Joshua for that title. Deontay is number 3. I mean, it's a decent payday, but it's not like a blockbuster payday that an Anthony Joshua fight would bring. And beating Anthony Joshua, I think, would do a lot more for his career right now.
Yeah, Wilder's going to fight Brazil. And so I feel bad because Joshua's going to get the great opposition to be confident.
Sorry to cut you off, Boxing Night, man, but we got 1 minute left. So, Jake, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I know you got an appointment, so really appreciate it. It's really an honor talking boxing with you.
No, man, it's always my pleasure to do these shows. I'm honored that you even reached out to have me on. Any Friday you want me on the show, man, I'm always open.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Thank you.
All right, have a blessed day.
All right, you as well. Appreciate it.